He already landed the jump experts said was impossible. Now he's hinting at one that could end the quad era forever. And the skater daring to do it? Ilia Malinin. Might attempt it at the Olympics. If this works, figure skating changes overnight. If it doesn't, it could cost him everything. For 2 seasons straight, Malinin hasn't just dominated, he's destabilized. 4 consecutive US titles, historic base values, programs so technically overloaded that he can afford mistakes and still outscore clean rivals. On paper, he's the inevitable Olympic champion. But inevitability is a myth. Because in Milan, something shifted. For the first time, the man who made the quad axel look routine admitted the pressure can get to him, that it can shut him down, that bad days exist. And suddenly, the aura cracked. Not shattered, cracked. And when the most advanced jumper in history shows vulnerability, the entire field smells it. Let's be clear about what makes this moment seismic. The quad axel isn't just another jump. It's 1,260 degrees of rotation, 4.5 revolutions off a forward takeoff. For decades, experts argued the torque would be too violent, the landing force too punishing. Then Malinin did it. Not once, repeatedly. He rotates over 6 times per second, lands with hundreds of pounds of force blasting through one leg, on a blade barely wider than a pencil. Moving nearly 20 miles per hour. That isn't choreography, that's biomechanical rebellion. He didn't raise the bar, he deleted it. And if you're sitting there thinking, this feels different, it is. Because this isn't just dominance, it feels like the beginning of a new era. So let me ask you something. Do you believe Ilia Malinin can change figure skating forever? Not just win, not just break records, but permanently redefine what's humanly possible on ice? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit subscribe button because what coming next is shocking. Here's where the story gets darker. When you master the impossible at 19, what's left to chase at 21? Because Milan isn't about proving he can land a quad axel. That chapter is closed. Now the whispers are about something even more insane. A quintuple jump, 5 rotations, 1,800 degrees, a move that would instantly obsolete the quad era. The kind of risk that makes coaches lose sleep and rivals panic. When reporters pressed him about it, he didn't laugh it off. He said physically, he's ready. 3 words detonated across the skating world. Maybe. Maybe not. And just like that, the Olympics stopped being about who will win. They became about what he might attempt. Psychological warfare at its finest. Because once you suggest you can redefine gravity again, everyone else becomes reactive. But technical dominance isn't the only battlefield. For years, critics have whispered that Malinin is all math and no magic, all rotations, no resonance, that his component scores don't always match his technical firepower. So instead of ignoring it, he did something no one expected. He tore his identity apart. His short program, The Lost Crown, explodes with video game intensity. Fast, aggressive, unapologetically modern. It mirrors who he actually is. Gamer, builder, digital native. Then came the bigger gamble. For his free skate, he incorporated his own spoken voice into the music. Not narration from a composer, not abstract sound design. His voice. Talking about pressure, about noise, about the internal war that comes with being labeled the future of a sport before you can legally rent a car. In a discipline that has historically rewarded silent elegance and classical restraint, this is radical. It's not just a program. It's a confession broadcast over arena speakers. If judges embrace it, it could elevate his component scores into a new stratosphere. If they reject it, even the hardest quads in history might not save him. He's betting points on authenticity. At the Olympics, that's not safe. That's bold. And then there's the bloodline. Malinin wasn't discovered by chance. He was built inside skating. His parents were Olympians for Uzbekistan. They understand Olympic pressure in their bones. They understand what it feels like when an entire nation measures your worth in decimals. He grew up dissecting rotation mechanics at Virginia rinks before most kids finished homework. But inheriting legacy comes with a tax. It's not just about fulfilling your own dream. It's about carrying the unfinished ones that came before you. And now, in Milan, he's wearing bright yellow skate laces gifted by Alex Ovechkin, a symbol from one generational athlete to another. That's not fashion. That's expectation woven into every stride. Meanwhile, across the ice, rivals like Yuma Kagiyama are preparing differently. Clean edges, controlled landings, clinical precision, no quad axle, no whispers of a quint, just relentless consistency. If Malinin is chaos engineered into brilliance, Kagiyama is discipline perfected, and discipline wins Olympic medals, especially when chaos slips. Here's the real tension no one can quantify. Malinin's technical base value is so high that mathematically he can fall and still contend. But the Olympics aren't just math, they're memory. One slip at the wrong moment, one unstable landing on unforgiving ice, and the narrative flips instantly. From revolutionary to reckless, from genius to overreaching. And Milan ice has been described as hard and fast, great for power, brutal for mistakes. That matters when you're flirting with quintuple territory. He has spent years proving he can fly. Now he has to prove he can land under pressure. Because this isn't a Grand Prix. This isn't nationals. This is the Olympic Games. A place where prodigies have burned out, where early dominance didn't guarantee longevity, where the weight of expectation has crushed careers before they peaked. Malinin knows that history. He also knows he's different. He protects the kid inside the machine, swaps skates for Lego bricks at night, juggles soccer balls to loosen up, keeps parts of himself disconnected from the machine the world sees. But Milan is the ultimate stress test, not of his jumps, of his identity. Is he the quad god? Or is he the first skater capable of redefining what artistry and athleticism look like together? Because if he lands everything, the quads, the components, maybe even flirts with a quint, figure skating doesn't just get a new champion. It gets a new era, an era where technical ceilings are theoretical, an era where spoken word and video game soundtracks share space with Olympic medals, an era where the future doesn't politely ask for permission, it forces change. And if he fails, if the risk proves too much, then Milan becomes the moment ambition outpaced reality. That's the knife edge he's skating on. Gold medal favorite, world record holder, quad axle pioneer, potential quintuple architect, and for the first time, visibly human. When he stands at center ice and the music begins, this won't just be a routine. It will be a referendum on how far one athlete can push a sport before it pushes back. And the scariest part, he looks ready to find out. Now imagine the arena lights dim, the Olympic rings glow overhead, 40 seconds before he takes the ice. This is where legends fracture, because talent doesn't win here. Control does. For 2 years, Ilia Malinin has been skating ahead of his own generation. Technically untouchable, mathematically unfair, a base value so inflated that rivals must be flawless just to breathe in his direction. But the Olympics flatten advantages. The ice doesn't care about your reputation, the judges don't score potential, and gravity never negotiates. There's a dangerous paradox surrounding Malinin. He has nothing left to prove and everything to lose. He already owns the quad axle, already shattered assumptions about rotational limits, already forced the International Skating Union to reconsider how innovation is scored, but Olympic history doesn't archive almost. It immortalizes moments. And Milan demands one. Let's talk about the quint again. Because even if he doesn't attempt it, the possibility hangs in the air like static electricity. A quintuple jump isn't just one extra rotation. It's exponentially harder. More vertical height required. Faster snap in the air, more violent impact on landing. Margins reduced to almost zero. A few millimeters off axis, career-ending risk. And yet, the fact that his name is even associated with it changes the psychology of the competition. If he attempts it and lands it, figure skating splits into 2 eras. Before Malinin, after Malinin. If he attempts it and falls, the narrative flips instantly. Genius becomes reckless. Visionary becomes overambitious. That's the razor's edge he's dancing on. But here's what makes this even more volatile. He isn't just escalating technically, he's challenging tradition artistically. For over a century, men's figure skating has rewarded classical restraint, balletic grace, silent storytelling, refinement. Malinin brought in video game intensity. He brought in spoken word. He brought in his own voice. That's not evolution, that's rebellion. And rebellion inside Olympic scoring panels is unpredictable. Will they reward the courage or quietly penalize the audacity? Because artistry isn't measured with a protractor, it's interpreted, and interpretation is dangerous. Meanwhile, across the practice sessions, skaters like Yuma Kagiyama are drilling edges with surgical precision. No experimental soundtracks, no psychological smokescreens, just clean takeoffs, clean landings, clean execution. Consistency has always been the Olympic currency. Malinin is trying to introduce cryptocurrency, and that's thrilling until it isn't. There's also something heavier in play. Second-generation Olympians carry a different pressure. His parents lived this stage, felt this silence, heard the same blades carving into Olympic ice. They understand the cost. They understand what it means when preparation collides with reality. And now their son stands here, not as a hopeful, as a favorite. That distinction changes everything. Because when you're the favorite, mistakes aren't human. They're headlines. And let's not overlook age. He's 21. The sport has seen prodigies peak early, seen bodies break, seen expectations consume young careers. Burnout is real. Injury is real. Momentum is fragile. Malinin has so far avoided the collapse by being smarter than his own talent. He manages recovery, protects his mental space, keeps hobbies outside the rink. But the Olympics compress pressure into a single week. Every practice session analyzed, every stumble magnified, every facial expression dissected. This is not a tournament, it's a microscope. The most fascinating shift this season isn't technical, it's emotional. For years, Malinin skated like a machine, programmed for rotation. Now, he's skating like someone aware of the cost. He talks openly about bad days, about feeling the weight, about the loneliness of being ahead of the field. That vulnerability changes how we see him. He's no longer just the quad god. He's a 21-year-old balancing genius with expectation. And sometimes, that balance is harder than landing 1,260 degrees. When the short program begins, the opening seconds will tell us everything. Does he attack the ice, or test it? Does he explode into the first quad with conviction, or hesitate half a heartbeat? At this level, hesitation is fatal. Confidence isn't optional, it's structural. If he nails the opening quad cleanly, the building will erupt. Energy becomes momentum, momentum becomes inevitability. But if there's a stumble, silence. And silence in an Olympic arena can be louder than applause. And then comes the free skate, the one with his voice. Imagine thousands of people listening to his internal monologue echo across the arena. That's exposure most athletes would avoid. He's embracing it. He's saying, this is the pressure, this is the noise, and I'm skating through it anyway. That's not just performance, that's statement. If it works, it could redefine how male skaters approach storytelling. If it doesn't, critics will say the experiment cost him gold. There is no neutral outcome. But here's the bigger picture. Malinin doesn't skate like someone trying to preserve tradition. He skates like someone who grew up in a different era entirely. Fast content, bold visuals, hybrid identity. He understands that sport in 2026 isn't just judged in arenas. It's clipped, shared, debated, replayed millions of times online. And he performs accordingly. He's not just chasing medals, he's building moments. When he ties those yellow laces, a gift from Alex Ovechkin, he's carrying more than style. Ovechkin chased history for years, redefining longevity and scoring records in the NHL. That parallel matters. Greatness isn't just about one explosive season, it's about redefining ceilings. And Malinin understands that. So here we are, Milan, Olympic ice, a generational talent standing at center rink, the quad-axle pioneer, the potential quint architect, the artistic risk-taker, the vulnerable favorite, and the clock is ticking. Because when the music starts, all the analysis ends. No more projections, no more hypotheticals, just edges carving ice, just rotations suspended in air, just a landing that will determine whether this becomes myth or lesson. If he lands everything, history will say figure skating entered a new dimension in Milan. If he falls, history will say ambition outran timing. Either way, this is not just another Olympic performance. This is a stress test for the future of the sport. And when he pushes off into that first jump, understand what you're watching. Not just an athlete, not just a favorite, but a moment where gravity, tradition, and expectation collide, and only one of them is leaving intact. That's not a routine, that's history on the brink.